Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Justin. Today I'm looking at the
Octaver Pedal.
the Octaver Pedal from the T-Cube series from ENO Music. Alright, let's get started. So first of all, here's my dry tone without the octave pedal. Alright, so this pedal's got a lot of fun things you can do with it. It's got 4 individual knobs, each one for one of the octaves. One of them is just your dry tone, the normal octave that your guitar is playing. You've also got 1 octave down, you've got 2 octaves down, and you've got 1 octave up as well. Alright, so first of all, I've got the dry octave right at 50%, I've got the octave up at 100%, and I've got the 2 lower octaves, the sub-octaves, both at 0. This just helps to give you a really nice secondary octave to what you're playing. Alright, you can also take that dry octave and cut that out completely. Right now I have that at 0 and I've still got the octave up all the way cranked. You can get a lot of really fun tones out of this too. It basically brings what you're doing and takes the entire thing up an octave. This is especially a lot of fun if you use it with a wah pedal. You can get some really sort of glitchy, cool sounds out of it. Alright, next up I brought the lower octave, which is down 1 octave, I brought that up to about 50%. The upper octave is still up at 100%, and both the double down octave and the standard dry octave are at 0 as well. This gives almost like a cool distorted synth sound to it. You hear a lot of this sort of tone in a lot of Jack White stuff. It's got that really like distorted synthy sound, and especially if you're the only guitar player in the band, or if you're like Jack White and you are the only stringed instrument in the band, this thing can fill up a lot of space without having to get a second guitar layered in there or a bass in there. Okay, kind of continuing along that line, I brought the dry octave up to about 50%. Everything else is exactly where it was before, so we've got the upper octave at 100, we've got the lower octave at 50, and we've got the double lower octave still at 0. But again, if you're the only guitarist in the band, or if you're the only stringed instrument in the band, if there's no bass at all, this thing will really fill up a lot of space sonically. Something really cool about this pedal, not all octave pedals are polyphonic. A lot of them are monophonic, which means you can only play 1 note at a time, or else you're going to get all sorts of garbled mess when you're playing a chord. This one you can play more than 1 note at a time, it is polyphonic, and you can get some really cool sort of effects while you're playing chords, especially in the higher register up here. Alright, another fun thing you can do with this pedal, let's say you're at a jam and there's not a bassist around, I don't know what you guys are doing, just go out and find a doggone bass player, but you can just bring that 1 octave down. So here I've got all 3 knobs all the way down except for the sub-octave, the first sub-octave, and that's at 100%, and you can play a bass part on the guitar, especially if what you're playing is a monophonic riff. So the tracking on this pedal is actually really good. What I mean by tracking is how well it basically hears the guitar and is able to translate it into what you're trying to achieve. Like a lot of octave pedals, when you get into the really low registers, it does have a little bit of an issue, but it really takes a long time before it starts to have any sort of issue with like a warble like a lot of pedals will. Alright, so now everything is at 50%, all four of these knobs. This is again just a really nice way to fill up a lot of space. That double sub octave will bring out a lot of that bass rumble in your guitar, even when you're playing up high on the neck. So just for reference against what it sounds like dry, up here you're hearing both that high octave and the low octaves, as well as that normal dry octave, but check it out versus what it's normally sounding like. You can hear it fills a lot more of that space sonically. It gives it a really cool synthy sort of tone, and if you're going for any sort of affected, unique style of playing, doing something like this will really help it to stand out. And again, this thing sounds awesome with a wah pedal. It really brings out, like I said, that sort of synthy thing where you got this envelope filter going at the same time. While we're on the wah pedal, I've also heard an octave pedal used in so many cool ways when playing funk music. With a lot of pedals, you can of course change up the order with them on your pedal board. So I would recommend putting the octaver earlier in your pedal chain rather than later on. Now I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm not your mother, but that's just what I would recommend. Here's another cool setting that I find a lot of fun. I've got the upper octave all the way up at 100%. I've got the down one octave at about 75%. I've got the dry octave right at 50, and I've got the double sub octave at 50 as well. This one fills just a ton of space. I was at rehearsal the other day and I was playing this riff that I wanted to have really cut through the mix. There were 4 other guys playing at the time and I was having a little bit of trouble making it really stand out without just straight up boosting the volume. And I put on this setting here and I found that it really cut through. It made the riff sound super powerful. Similarly, again, during that same rehearsal, I wanted a solo to stand out a little bit more. I felt like I was using the same guitar tone again and again and again. So what I ended up doing was I put the dry octave at 50%, I've got the upper octave at 100, and I've got the single sub octave at about 25%, and I just felt this made the solo like really, really punch out from the mix. Alright, one other thing I wanted to show here. I've seen and heard a lot of bassists use an octave pedal in really cool ways. I believe that the guy from Royal Blood uses one to fill up the space, because if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, but I think he uses it to basically fill in where the guitar would normally be. You also have this on Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer, I believe. Alright, so I've got my upper octave at 100%, I have my dry octave at 50, and both of my sub octaves are at 0 right now. You can see how adding that upper octave fills the space a little bit more and gives it kind of a fuzz feel almost to it. It's a really neat tone. So this is the dry bass. And then here it is with the octave. It just adds another element to this, another layer, and it's a really cool texture. Alright, so as you can see, the ENO Music Octaver Pedal is a lot of fun. Whether you're playing guitar or bass, this will let your instrument employ octaves that it might not normally inhabit. I actually play with a violinist in one of my bands, and she uses an octave pedal to bring her sound down an octave and give her violin a really cool sort of cello feel to it. So whether you're looking to create some more synthy tones or you just want to bring up or down the pitch of your instrument, this thing has some great possibilities on it. It's got some great tracking capabilities as well, and a true bypass switch, so this is going to make a really cool addition to the pedal board. Thanks so much for watching.